Good morning. Good morning. God bless you this morning for watching this video. You know, today is exciting because it has snowed a lot and, you know, snow's really deep, but it's, a good day today. Now, let me read the verse of the day. It's called Romans 8, verse 31. Right? Romans 8, verse 31. It says, "What then shall we say in response to those things? If God is for us, who can be against us?" So basically, what that scripture is saying is if God is for us, then, who can be against us? Because God's ultimately the highest level of authority and power. Now, there's levels of God. Simply within the same God, there is sectors of God. That's why there's different levels of heaven, first heaven, second heaven, to seventh heaven. Now, these are different parts of selections simply because God is one, but very diverse in his power and authority and position, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they all have sectors, but they're within one power source, right? So it's complex, but yes, simplify or simplification, as you call it. So, what I want you to do is trust God with, the motivation, the information, the knowledge that you have, talk to him on a daily basis. Now, there are so many things that's taking place in the world. And, I had a vision of what is coming, you see. Now, in the vision, I just basically, like, I woke up to a time where it was like sudden flood, sudden destruction to a beach front. So there was like abundance of water, and so many people weren't expecting this type of disaster to take place, right, upon the world, simply because there's a lot of impacts that are going to take place because you see, the people have decided to turn away from God. And I keep saying, God also told me that if each family, at least one family per society, per city, right, is willing to be righteous and is willing to, obey God's commands, because obeying God's command is very important. If they're willing to do that and they pray out to God, initially, all of them doing this, God will forgive and rechange the way destruction is coming, meaning rechange revelation. Now, you might say, well, revelation must take place. It will only take place if we continue to turn away from God, because God initially structured this world for what? For us to learn from our mistakes. Now, if we have learned and we have what? Turned back to God, and we have decided to, you know, forgive others and also ask for forgiveness from God and start doing the obedience of God, which is his commands, and doing his will. He is a father. So initially, his love for us is greater than us. So therefore, he would do this and he would change things. But would people listen? Do they think that this is far-fetched, that people are not going to do this? These are some of the things that people must understand, that essentially it's important that people understand the ways of God. He has one side, grace, blessings, honor, respect, love, care, all of those good things on one side. On the other side, he has punishment to the highest of the highest levels. And can you blame a just God simply because he doesn't expect you to not earn grace and authority, right? He just wants to put you in that great position to help you out. He wants to bless you. He wants to protect you. He wants to um, show you how to be responsible in your position of power. Because guess what? You see, when I said God is three in one, but then at the same time, he has put his life in all of us. So the life part in us that he has put inside of us to keep us alive for a time period does not mean that that life dies, but it is held for account, meaning what we decide to use with that power is going to initially be what judged in accordance to, what we have done here on earth. And if we decide to say, you know what, oh, well, we know too much, because I feel like the world is going back to the time where people want to get together, but they want to oppose God and fight against God simply because they were in position, right? But they weren't understanding that that power that they have within them is given to them from God. So, people, I know this is, maybe a small platform, and, once in a while they're like, oh, what is this guy talking about? But a lot of the things that I say, initially, you see it coming to pass. And this is one of these things that I am assuring you that if people don't take that into consideration, right? There's so much families in the world, but each family, one family per a city, right? I know that would be maybe what, 100 million families, right? In the world. If they would all just, you know, at least stop sinning, right? Like completely despise sinning. Number one. Number two, obey God's commands, right? So remain righteous, obey his commands, follow the 10 commandments, and they would ask for forgiveness for their city or for their country, right? For their cities and countries. And, ask for forgiveness. They would be forgiven and changes will come upon the earth. You see what I mean? Lucifer only has time because the sins of the land is getting more aggressive. That is the only reason. And now the more and more sins cover the earth, the more time he has. Now, his time frame that we are talking about, right? If it's 3.5 years or 7 years tribulation or whatever the case, it's not what you guys think. It's a spiritual timing. You see what I mean? It's not a physical timing like what you see about 3 years. 3 years could equivalent in the spirit, right? When we are thinking, if they're saying 3 years tribulation, they're always talking about within the spirit. So it could be 30 years. 30 years of punishment. That's why God says, if, what's it called? If I don't come very quickly, even the very elect can be deceived. That means there is enough time, right? The times that you guys are saying, oh, he's going to run out of time. No, we are running out of time because we only live for what? Maximum 100 years. Not even maximum. Sometimes some people live 105, 110, 125. But how able are they able? How capable are they capable of doing things? Do you see what I mean? So there is a major difference in the spiritual time. 1 + 1 = 2 physical time. But spiritual time It could equivalent to 20 or 30, because what is spiritual and physical are not the same, right? So something that takes place spiritually can manifest physically differently. And I'm telling you, this is how things are. So people need to understand that they're saying, oh, he's running out of time. It could be 30 years. Huh? It could be 30 years. And I am saying the more and more aggressive the sins get on earth, the more time he has, the more time that is added on to his time frame. So people can decide to continue behaving the way they're behaving. And look, the earth is alive, right? The elements, right, that govern the earth, that makes the earth go round is alive. So just like how we are alive, the elements keep us alive simply because we are made out of four elements. So you have to understand that, good and evil does exist in this world. But understand that the more evil that dwells upon the earth, the more time evil has. Now you might say, well, it's because it's getting more aggressive because thing, but you're buying Lucifer more time. That's what's happening. So to clear that, we have to turn away. And I'm telling you, that's basically what it is. You see, God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. He was. And he brought who? He brought Abraham to the mountaintop. And they discussed, and Abraham begged and asked, or if you can find 50 people. And it went down to just one family, right? Save the family. So, one family, if they turn away, right? If they turn away from their wicked ways and they ask for forgiveness for the city, for the land, things would change. You see, I have to tell you some of these things because people need to understand what takes place spiritually is not the same physically. If people don't understand this, and when it happens, don't be surprised. I tell you, do not look to the news to for certain information, because they could only tell you what is happening. You see what I mean? They can't tell you things of the future, but they could only tell you what has happened. Like, oh, a crisis happened here. We are going to then talk about it. This is what takes place. They can tell you that. But can they tell you what's going to happen 2-3 years from now? Right? Even if they have physical plans in place. But what is taking place spiritually is more magnitude or magnified than the physical. So I am just telling you, time, right, is bought through the essence of what is good and what is bad. So if people want to continue to do evil and think that nobody sees, if people continue to do that and evil keeps growing, your life is temporary, because 100 years is nothing. It's probably like 1 minute to God? 1 minute, not even a day, or 1 minute or 1 second. We live in seconds in the eyes of God. Because it's nothing. Back in the days, Adam lived 936 years old, right? They lived for a long time. They were having kids when they were 100 plus, 115 years old, they're having kids. Now you tell me, right? What about this modern day? 115 years old could have, like, I'm talking about natural, right? Can they have a natural kid? It's not like before. But before, they used to even live longer, and that wasn't even a day to God. Not even a day, right? 10,000 years. So That was probably what, an hour. So the highest amount of time somebody lived to God, right, was 1 hour. But yet to them it was a very long time, right? Even Adam and Eve, everything traces back to these two humans that were created initially. And so this is what took place. And so now we are in these times where people do not understand the magnitude of sins that is taking place upon the earth. Strengthen yourself spiritually, man. Do so. Do not look to others, but strengthen yourself with God. Charge yourself. Because you see, it's the same thing. When you eat physical food, is it passing on to somebody else or is passing on to you? If you're drinking, great water, is it passing on to somebody else or is passing on to you? That's the question you have to ask yourself. What is it that you are doing, right, that's not beneficial for you, or what is it that you're doing that is beneficial for you? But these two things exist in this world today, right? You know, they do. And you just have to understand that it's not just a physical life. Think about it. God created us. He will resurrect us when the time comes. And it's not about saying, oh, well, why are we always talking about that? But you have to understand, right? Some of the things that's happening, right, just baffles human, state of mind. It's like things are changing. You're right. Technology has essentially what? Changed so many things. It has sped up so much time, right? Things that we used to take so long to do, right? Now it does in what? Maybe minutes. So you tell me, what is happening to the organic methods of humans? What is happening to them? Huh? Things are changing, right? You're seeing tornado here, hurricane here, volcano there, right? Disasters here. You tell me why? Because everybody wants to do whatever they want to do. And nobody wants to understand what is truly important. And as long as we continue to divide, right, then the things that are going to affect us is going to be very, very high. And that's what's happening. Pretty soon, we're going to think the solution to everything is to be able to, consider who goes out, who doesn't go out, why they go out, how they go out, right? And I'm pretty sure that's initially what they are structuring as this moment is going on. So if they're choosing to do these things, then why is it that before we didn't have these kind of problems? Why is it that before we used to live much longer? We had less issues. Why? All of this technology and stuff we had back in the days, like when I'm talking about centuries ago, it just wasn't on a mass scale because people chose to live differently and they ended up living longer. But now people live like as if, you see an 18, 20-year-old gone, 17-year-old gone, this problem here. And it's like, it's so much that it's too much even for, media outlets to keep up with. So now they pick and choose. Like it's a clearance, what's it called? Sale. They pick and choose. Okay, this one is major, but this one is even bigger. Let's go with this one, right? So before now, things have changed, right? Even the water that you drink, think about it. We have you could have our water softener and stuff, but if the water generally is not good, as much technology as you have, you will still have a little bit of bad inside it. So then therefore it's going to ultimately affect you. So it's not even about the means of what you have anymore. It just, we have not been able to actually, figure out the main issue. What is it that we used to do and now we don't do anymore? Because initially, if we consider not doing these things and we keep going further and further and value, right, less human life, and we value more things, then we are going to be drastically affected. You see, the problems start with us and it continues with us. It's not like, oh, somebody else just came out of nowhere and started it. You know what I mean? We always say, oh, well, what about, you know, the negative energy that is imposing? But negative energy only has to what? Approach you first. And you have to have a reaction, right? So if you resist the negative force, then what? It's going to have to flee because you rejected it. But people are embracing it and, matter of fact, being consumed by it because they're saying, well, that's much more better, that's much more cooler, right? So they're using that negative force in order to embrace themselves to obtain peace. But the peace is only temporary because it's subject to change due to what? The fact that it's always negative. So there's always something bad, like a bad vibe or a bad effect or a bad feeling. And you have to keep doing that in order to what? To try to get a little bit of peace. So what is it that we're doing? Because to be honest, as smart as human beings is, there are more things that we don't know than what we know. As much as advanced as we have become, there's still way more things. Like, take for example, out of 100, percent, we probably know maybe 20%. So the odds outweigh us entirely. And, it's not like people are actually sharing the real knowledge. Some people are leasing it or they're cutting in branches and sharing it among small groups so that they can, in fact, benefit the position of power. So they make the rules, right? So then the masses are being affected because they don't know. And so they're going along with it, but not knowing that they're in a heap of plans. So we're actually being selfish with the advancement. But then it's due to what? The insecurities or the problems that have happened with the trust of human to human. So now we don't know what's happening. And so that's why I say it's better we give it to the what? Creator, because we have a relationship with the creator within us. That's what keeps us alive. How could we reject what keeps us alive? What gives us power, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom? If we choose to go with what does not give life, because we give technology life, we are the ones who's programming it. We are the ones that are using it for our needs. So we give it power. But if we give it so much power that then it turns around to what? Then be able to control us. Remember, it has no emotions. So therefore, if they want to eradicate, they don't care because they have no emotions. They're just seeing subject to what? The information and understanding of concept of what? Regulation. So that's what they're initially going to do. And guess what? Who's to blame for it? We can't turn around and say, oh, God made this happen or God made that happen. No, we created these things. And the fact that we wanted to do our own thing. So if we turned away from it, right, and we programmed it to do all these things, they're gathering data on a daily basis. And we have seen so many stories where they started the technology have started to program themselves and make their own language and form their own communication so that they can eventually go rogue. So now tell me, how come they are advancing in that way? That means there is something that we quite don't know about this mechanism, right? Because it's a mechanism that is formulating position of power and authority as we what? Give it position, because we're using it in everything that we're doing. It's easier, but is it which one? We are giving up our free will in order for this to be used, because they don't have to have vacation, right? They can work 24 hours as long as we put a position of power in position, as long as we program it the right way, as long as we maintain it. But it is us that is doing all of these things. And if we continue to do these things, right, it's going to be more advanced than we are. Think about it. We have we have we have these programs that are much more smarter than us. It can come up with what, like a whole theory or thesis in less than 1 minute, and it's a great one. And right now, maybe it might have a little bit of plagiarizing issues or so, but tell me, we are going to then go and fix it, no? So basically, we are positioning technology in order to govern us, like basically take control over us. But except for we have emotions and understanding and compassion, but they don't, because it's a mechanism, it's a robotics. So whatever programming that we put in place, right, is what's going to take over. And if it looks at it and says, well, this set of humans are weaker than these ones, so we need to what? Get rid of them. They will find means, and the means will be that what we have access to, what we need, which is maybe food, what we drink, what we eat, where we go, places that we do. So, like, they know what can affect us because we gave them all the secrets. So I am encouraging you. What is it that we need to do as a society? Because if we don't do it and it becomes too late, right? It's basically not going to be like a movie. It's going to be very, very, very rigorous. And I'm telling you, remember, they can survive in these conditions because they don't have to eat, they don't have to sleep. If they get destroyed, they can reprogram, because guess what? If one company is making this type of technology, a next one is making a next one for the what? The sake of money. So therefore, they want to obtain power. So they're gonna counter that. Okay, this one helps to make this technology better. So I'm going to create a patent for this. And then, of course, it could get into the wrong hands, because initially it's meant for the right people, right? It's meant to be in the right hands. But we all know some people can encounter problems, and their what? Negative desires can say, you know what? I have problems with and law enforcement, so I'm just going to what? Counter this issue and make sure that, in fact, this situation is what? Worse. This kind of technology is worse than an atomic bomb. At least okay, these people have that. They're going to use it. But this could be small, like a rice grain, but yet very, very dangerous, where you cannot really see it, right? It can poison the atmosphere. Imagine. And it's not even quick poison where you see masses of people. It's slow. So little by little, the people are deteriorating because you don't see what you're smelling, right? But you just smell it. But do you see it? You can see it, but the process you have to take it initially, your naked eye cannot. And people are not going to go to that far because you're not a scientist, you're not a researcher. Most people are not. So therefore, majority of the average people are just gonna go with it, which environment that they live in. Oh, okay, we live here, fine. Oh, that smells bad, but you don't know to the extent of what it can really do to your organs, or affect you, maybe 3, 4 months down the line. So you tell me, what is truly happening, why people are not really realizing that we need to be better as human beings. Hmm? We do need to be better. If we're not, guess what's going to happen? We're going to realize that we did need to do these things, but it's too late for us. And if it's too late for us, then guess what? The time that initially we have is going to be much shorter. And we're going to be resorted to what? Doing everything inside. Tell me, a fish will be like if you put a shark in a fish tank, right? Like just a small fish tank. The shark will what grow to its circumstances. So it won't grow bigger than the fish tank, right? But if you put a shark in the wild, it's gonna grow big because it's in the wild, it's ocean, right? So if it's the same thing with us, if you put human beings in a settings of modification where we're always inside, then our bodies are gonna grow in that format. We're not gonna grow as big as we usually are. We're not gonna be as fast as we are because everything will be modified due to our environment. And if our environment is not, you know, powerful, it's not growing, and we're always facing a lot of problems and effects, then we are also going to be affected in the long run. And then guess what? It's not even about what you eat anymore because guess what? The quality won't be so high, anyways. And believe me, even if you had a whole bunch of money, if there was less amount of food to eat, less amount of resources due to destruction, because guess what? It's not animals that is destroying our crops. It is usually us. And even if animals go and destroy our crops, it's because of how the environment has become, right? Because guess what? If there's a mosquito and you have a spray, now you spray and the mosquito's not gonna come, right? But if you create an environment for the mosquitoes to grow in, then they're gonna subject to eating the crops and doing all these things. So it's quality of life. But we do need to change and we need to do it now. Cannot wait for a massive, next earthquake, massive volcano, massive destruction to say, well, what are we going to do about it? We have, this country come in to help this country and stuff. But guess what? The money is equal to resources. But if we're using resources to rebuild lands that are being destroyed by the foundation, daily, then what's going to happen? Hmm? Eventually, we're going to be in the negative where we can't help because it's happening too much. And then guess what? The laws of the lands would not matter anymore because, hey, we just don't have the means to help, right? And we certainly do not want to purposely go and destroy places because maybe they don't agree with us or they don't agree with this country. So, oh, okay, destroy them and then they're going to ask for help and then we're going to ask for demands, right? So it's up to everybody. But God bless you. Think about what I just said. Stay motivated, stay focused. And of course, have a great day. Bye now.